Good afternoon. We are so excited to bring you part 2 of the webinar series, Leading Your Business Out of the COVID Crisis. Last week, we talked about a common phrase heard around the internet, the new norm. What does that new norm look like for your business? Today, we'll finish up on a couple of topics and items to consider as you develop what that new norm looks like for your business and your customers. Next slide. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Kansas Small Business Development Center. We are a grant-funded program with the Small Business Administration with additional funding through the Kansas Department of Commerce and our hosts, Johnson County Community College and Seward County Community College. Our mission is to increase economic prosperity in Kansas by helping entrepreneurs and small businesses start and grow through professional counseling, training, and resources across 8 regional centers in Kansas. Johnson County Community College services Johnson, Wyandotte, and Miami counties, while Seward County Community College serves 22 counties in southwest Kansas. Our individual advising services are provided at no charge to the business, and we like to say that our services are prepaid with your tax dollars. At Johnson County Community College, we have 3 full-time advisors who work one-on-one and provide confidential and comprehensive advising services such as cash flow projections, exploring financing options, developing a sales strategy, and marketing plan. Seward County Community College has 2 full-time advisors. Training is the cornerstone of our program. We offer workshops and seminars at no or low cost with topics covering QuickBooks, financials, sales and withholding taxes, marketing, and social media. Full list can be found through the Johnson County Community College Continuing Education website or Seward County Community College Kansas SBDC website. Next slide. If you are a current client, please do not hesitate to reach out to your advisor. Or if you are seeking assistance for the first time, you can register with the Kansas Small Business Development Center office near you. Next slide. Your speakers today come from the Kansas Small Business Development Center at Johnson County Community College and Seward County Community College. Together, we bring 28 years of small business advising experience, each of us stemming from differing backgrounds. My name is Jessica Johnson, and I am the Regional Director of the Johnson County Community College Small Business Development Center. My background is in government procurement, and I'm a certified contract management professional. Prior to attaining the role of Seward County Community College Regional Director, Maria Dennison worked in human resources within the construction and media industries. Harnessing her human resource experience, Maria is a Society for Human Resource Management Senior Certified Professional. John Adesi, the most tenured advisor at Johnson County Community College, utilizes his extensive management and sales experience in the public and private sectors to assist small business clients. John is a certified global business professional working with businesses in exporting their products and services. Johnson County Community College advisor Stephanie Willis uses her corporate and small business ownership expertise as a seasoned sales, marketing, and management leader to assist small business owners. Stephanie is a certified value growth advisor helping growing businesses increase value. Last but not least, Jack Harwell. As a Johnson County Community College advisor, Jack leverages over 30 years of manufacturing, distribution, logistics, and all things supply chain to assist our clients. Jack is a certified exit planning advisor working with businesses in developing a strategic exit plan. Next slide. So today's session will be recorded and made available after the event. We will be taking questions throughout. We'll answer them at the end of the presentation. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box. Please type in your questions, and you have an option to vote on the questions that are already submitted. The questions that are the most popular, we will answer first as time allows. Questions we do not get to in the live session will be answered and provided in a question and answer transcript after the event. Next slide. This presentation is meant to be used as a guide. We advise you to consult a qualified professional and get comprehensive understanding of how your decisions will impact your business in the present and future. Next slide. Today, we will talk about your sales and how to reflect, reset, and rebound, followed by human resources considerations. We will wrap up with 10 things you can do right now as you lead your business out of the COVID crisis and questions and answers. But before we get started with today's topics, let's recap what was discussed last week. Jack, I'll let you take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. So last week, one of the things we did was we shared with you a stress-tested financial projection spreadsheet. And the idea was to develop multiple scenarios. So you have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, that would reflect different possibilities of what could happen in the future. So recommend that you plan for a worst case, best case, and then something in between. And every plan will be different. I mean, I showed a 90%, 75%, 50% plan, but you might want to plan something differently because your business may have some unique characteristics. Then think through each of those cases and be prepared to deal with those scenarios in case they do come true, or if something close to that comes true, then you will have at least thought through how to deal with that. And recommend that you involve other people in your planning process, your employees, potentially your vendors, other stakeholders, and above all else, expect the unexpected. And from a leadership standpoint, my advice is to focus on cash flow. And what that means is if you, for example, if you have an opportunity to save some money by buying a volume discount, but you're going to end up spending more cash to get that savings, focus on the cash. Right now, it's not about profitability, it's about cash and making that cash flow so you can take care of the essential expenses. And then also recommend that you communicate with your employees, your customers, and your vendors. Keep those lines of communication going, especially with your vendors. You may have some challenging times where you have to push back on them. It's a lot easier to repair a relationship if you've been communicating, even if it is not happy communication. Having some kind of communication will keep that bridge open. And then ultimately, you need to make decisions that are best for the company. So think about it holistically. You have to balance all of your stakeholders' needs and make some hard decisions. But the survival of your company for you is the most important thing to consider. And of course, you want to also consider the health of your stakeholders, all the other things, aspects of your business. But if your business doesn't survive, then that's not a good thing. John?
Thanks, Jack. So last week we talked about messaging, both internal and external. So we've got just two quick summations. So this is the internal to your employees, and so I used Content Row, where you see the McDonald's and some information on a COVID researcher dies. Content Row takes a look at what's topical in the news right now. That was current as of last week, so people are still very much concerned, obviously, about the impact on people's health. People are angry enough out there. Half the country seems to be nervous, and half the country seems to be angry at this point. And so we've had the incident at McDonald's where somebody actually got shot because the employees didn't want to have them in the dining room. And of course, people are always actually worried about war right now. I was curious and took a look at the trending topics as of today. It's slightly better. The young lady that played Dr. Amy Farrah Fowler, whatever, on The Big Bang Theory is getting her own series on Fox. But then the other two stories are about Anthony Fauci warning about the impact on the football season and some indications that the New York City lockdown will continue into June. So these are the things that are topical in the news. In terms of what's on your employees' minds, and this is just a snippet from Korn Ferry, and I know Stephanie's going to share quite a bit more of that. But worry about personal family health, job security, financial security, lack of access to food. We were talking before this thing started about the fact that meat's getting a little bit scarce. The news, this stuff is hitting us all the time, and we're home to watch it. And TV viewership has never been higher than it is right now. And of course, you've still got work stuff, and we've had our own technology glitches today. There are safety concerns. People are having their children at home, and what happens when they go back to work and they still have their children at home. So this is what's on your employees' minds. And so, realizing for your staff that you're going to have to be showing empathy for them. They've been going through something quite extraordinary as well. And I know the business owners have and financial tolls, but the employees have as well. training is very important. People want to know what to do. I'll be very frank with you. I was very frustrated at the very beginning of this crisis because we were tasked with helping people with some of the SBA programs with no true training from the SBA, and that was incredibly frustrating for me. People want to know what to do so they can feel helpful, so that they can feel in control of their own health, their own outcomes. And so, talking to them about their safety, and I think being very transparent. If you've gone to the point of actually getting a Paycheck Protection Program loan, you went into debt to keep them employed for these 8 weeks, and his debt was some peril, as we found out. I think you should be quite transparent about that. Let's see. Oh, please go forward. There we go. Always one too many. Hang on. Okay, sorry. Up and down instead of left and right. Awesome. In terms of the external message, I liked the quote here, the very last sentence on this first paragraph. It's far better to be more serious than you want to be than to be more sorry than you can ever possibly express. And so this is a blog post that we'll share with you, and the link is at the very bottom from WordStream. But just talking about tone. And so the second point, keeping it positive, inspirational, helpful, avoid being humorous, witty, or casual. Jessica always worries about me and my sense of humor, and her predecessor did as well, and her predecessor. As a matter of fact, I think I made a joke early on, great line, but that this just in, the Missouri governor advises residents to shelter in potholes. Just perhaps a little too early for that kind of thing. So, I think it would be a good idea to be staying away from the humorous or the witty. The third line, think contribution, not conversion, is very similar to what Constant Contact used to talk about, whether you could either be telling or selling. This might not be a time for selling, not trying to convert people, but just contributing to the conversation. And so some of the hot button words that are very effective: contact free, virtual, remote, in-home, downloadable, delivery, online, touch-free, whatever. These are good messages. At this point, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Stephanie. No, I keep on going the wrong direction. Stephanie Landis for a discussion of the process. Stephanie, I hope you have better luck with the controls than I am.
I'm hoping I get there. Yeah. So good afternoon. And so as Jessica said, we're going to talk a little bit about this whole reflecting, resetting, and rebounding. This new norm, or this new world that's out there, may be a lot different for some companies, and it may not be very different for other companies. And so it's very important that you kind of take these steps to assess where you were, where you are now, and where you want to go. John talked a lot about messaging, and that's what we're going to talk about now, is kind of how to use that messaging and tie it into your strategy. Because recently, this is Forbes, who surveyed, I think it was 2,000 business owners, and their number one concern, of course, was cash flow, which Jack already addressed, the importance of managing that. And then employee management, which Maria is going to be talking about right after I'm finished. But the diminishing pipeline, I mean, as John alluded, I mean, this was not a big time to be selling people. And because of that, business development kind of went by the wayside. So, oh, gotta go back one, what's happening? Sorry, I am having trouble too, John. There we go. Sam Richter, who is, good Lord, who is one of the world's experts in sales intelligence, he said, now is really a tough time to sell. It's even uncomfortable, yet business development is the lifeblood of any business. And everybody know, I always use the saying that sales solves everything, but when you're not able to sell, what do you do? And in this instance, he said there's 3 different things. You can curl up in a little ball and hope it goes away. Well, we all know that COVID is, it's letting up, and our world is starting to try to get back to normal, but it will not go away anytime soon. Recognize that some people are not ready to buy from you, but they still want to be connected with you, and you can provide value, which again goes back to some of that content that John just mentioned. And then identify companies that need to hear from you right now because you can solve an immediate problem. And you'll hear as we kind of go through these steps how important the helpful and solution-based selling model is during this time. So reflect. Reflect means, move away from the rigidness and think about, or forget about what have we always, that's the way we've always done it, because that's not the way people are doing business right now. If you think about it, Sonic was the only person that was bringing food out to your car. I mean, literally you had to drive through. Now all these nice casual restaurants are bringing food out to your car. So everybody had to come up with different ways. So if you were very rigid during this, then it was gonna be tough for you to survive. Reset, willing to adapt to the new normal. I mean, again, all these businesses are thinking of new norms, but the question will be what's going to stick and what was just during this transient time, which will get us to the third step, which is to rebound, which is to start thinking again about a growth perspective and how are you going to build this new customer journey. Your customers, regardless of whether you're business to consumer or business to business, have been forced into a world of digitization faster and more abruptly than they ever imagined. And the results of that on the sales pipeline and the customer journey are tremendous, and data is still being gathered about that impact. But as you go through these three steps of reflecting and take what you learn, what you discovered during your reflecting, and then reset what you've learned, you should be able to come up with a pretty good rebounding strategy. So, and I don't know if anybody watches Sunday Morning, but I do. And an economist on Sunday Morning made a great statement that COVID didn't change the world. It just forced the change faster, which is kind of what I alluded to about the digitization. And I thought this quote was really cool about Nelson Mandela, who not only saw a lot of change, but also led a lot of change. As he said, as we unconsciously give other people permission to let go of let our own light shine, we are liberated from our own fear. And because of that, we help others to be less fearful or automatically liberate others. So this has definitely been a time of fear, and more than fear, potentially the uncertainty. And as business owners, we're typically kind of control freaks. So not being in control and having uncertainty makes it difficult for us to kind of keep our businesses moving forward. But this is, the key to this whole process will be to not be afraid of imperfection. Again, businesses don't have to totally reinvent themselves. It may just be a few tweaks here or there. But the reality is there does need to be an analysis, and you do need to take this time to reflect. So from a reflecting, basically, as you read up here, evaluate your current plans, what works, what needs to change. So as you look at how your business was before and what did you do during these couple months of lockdown, what worked, what opened up your eyes to things that were new and different that you want to keep. I put on here, retention is the new acquisition, because typically when you're talking about conversions, which John talked about, that's not what's happening now. If you are acquiring even new emails or anything like that, that is part of it. And retaining your existing customer base is even more important. They want to be loyal to you. They want to stay in touch with you. And just determining opportunities based on a competitive analysis. You're going to change as well as most of your competition. So making sure that you're mindful of what's going on around and not making all these decisions in a bubble. And from a sales side, this ties into that, in that, really prioritizing your customers and their buying, and looking at their buying trends. You want to make sure that the customers that you really, if you look at your analysis, that you need to keep and have been loyal to you, that you're staying in constant contact with them and making sure that they're happy. And because with the time on everybody's side, there's been a lot of research done. And so opportunities where people might be looking for other vendors could be out there. So making sure you're prioritizing and staying in touch with your lead customers is important. And again, this the cash flow ties into this tracking your pipeline and deal risk. Historically, you have your terms and everything's great, but cash flow is a concern with a lot of businesses out there. And so making sure that you're taking that into account with your customers, and seeing what their terms are, what their current status is, and will they be able to continue to feed your pipeline and your cash flow. And help is the new selling. So when you're thinking of building this new customer journey, how can you be more helpful to your customers, as opposed to, like John talked about, again, the telling versus the selling? What is it that you can tell them, or how can you help them? Is there inventory that you have in there that maybe you could substitute for something they need, or even at a different price? I mean, just different ways to be more solution selling versus, just the way it was before. And so here's some key benchmarks to help you look through as you go through your reflecting. These are things you should be looking at from a market share perspective. What was your growth before, March 1st hit? How were you trending? And then how that impacted you during this time frame, and how long do you see your pipeline build, getting back on path? And then what does that mean, that sales number mean, to all those numbers and all that cash flow that Jack walked through? Your vision and strategy. You should have a brand promise and a mission already out there. Just making sure that as you're going through this reset and reflecting, that it continues to be consistent. Innovation. This is a truly innovative time, as we all have seen. I mean, just look at us. We're holding this workshop with everybody online, and we wouldn't have thought even twice about that a couple months ago. So, does your product portfolio need to change? What are the trends? How based on what you know about your customer historically and their buying patterns during this time, how can you change, or what do they need to change, or how do you better align so that you keep and maintain that customer base? So to reflect is to really, just begin thinking of updating your strategic plan. It's not rocket science. It's not something you haven't done before, but it's just time right now to take this step back and reflect on where your business is today. Okay. Reset is your second step. And when you get to resetting, this is all about just prioritizing your authenticity. I talked earlier just about the consistent brand promise. And so as you go through resetting and thinking about how you're going to move forward, making sure that you stay consistent. Email marketing is huge right now. Open rates are up about 33%. So when you think back to the reflecting and retention being, so important, what are you doing in an email manner, and in what type of email campaigns are you using to rebuild, reconnect with your old customers, to build some communities, and to really focus on taking care of that existing customer base you might have. Cutting a non-essential trade, non-essential spend, that's part of because we still don't know, even though we were just talking earlier about how since the mandated stay at home has lifted, it's like people are like not wearing masks now and stuff like that. It's like just because the switch flip doesn't mean everybody just all of a sudden going to start spending. I think Jack talked quite a bit the last time about how people might be saving. And so, but how can you, in light of not physically traveling to a trade show, maybe you develop some sort of online event that you can then still take advantage and work with that customer base that's out there. So it's just thinking about it differently. Social media is also a great opportunity right now. Google and Facebook ads are cheap, which means that your conversion rate is way less and your cost of acquisition is way less. So it's a great opportunity to really focus on that social media and, again, create that awareness and bring back your old customers and those that you might have started to communicate with prior to this, re-engage them, which leads to the pivoting your content. As you do social media, the purpose of social media is to drive people to your website, right? And so, but right now, because people are sitting at home, there is a lot more research being done before purchasing. And so your website needs to be a truly high-performing website and possibly have some ad landing pages, so that as people are out there searching, or you're running Google ads or Facebook ads, that they're falling right into the messaging and the information that they need because that will help you to build trust. I speak a lot when I'm working with clients about know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, refer. Get people to know you, get them to like you. So knowing you would be coming to your website. Liking you would be what the information they have on there being relevant to them. You're solving their pain. Trust is, again, having quality content, having testimonials, things like that. So that plays into account here on building that trust. And the whole help thing falls into the solution-based selling. It is a short-term pipeline generation right now. What can you do to get people moving and kind of re-engaged? So it's not an 18-month sales strategy right now. You guys need cash. You guys need to sell. Your customers, if they're going back into business, need product or services to get their businesses going. So how can you start creating and building some momentum with this short-term pipeline? And make sure if you had leads or proposals from before, this is a great time to reach out to them, and just let them know that you guys, what your plan is, and you think back to John's messaging. What is your plan for coming back to business, and helping them to understand how they can work with you in the near future. This is just a template. If you haven't mapped out a customer journey, this is a tremendous opportunity and a time before you get back into full swing. We always say to our Business Basics in a Day class, which is our startup class, great that they're sitting in this 8-hour class, because once you get working in your business, you don't have time to work on your business. Well, some of the benefits that occurred out of COVID is forced focusing on your business. And that's why we've been doing these webinars, and that's why hopefully you guys are spending time on these types of webinars, but more so taking this and going back and applying it. So how are you going to map out your, based on your traffic source, where are all the connection points between you and your customer? And once they engage with you, how do you help them move through the buying cycle? And what are your touch points? So we put a sample of this, just a quick little customer journey to help prompt you to spend some time and think about how your customer might be moving through the customer journey differently than they were before. And finally, this is the final step 3, is to rebound. And this is all about, rebounding, rewarding that customer loyalty. That connected customer journey that you've just redefined as part of your resetting, how can you reward those customers that have been loyal to you? Your customers today, there was a study about engagement, satisfaction, and enjoyment because so much is done without the human touch right now, that your inside people need to act as that personal touch, which is where on the sales side, where you see AI and virtual sales, and inside sales, connecting at every point of that sales cycle is so important right now, which will cause you to redefine your processes. What needs to, based on this whole new defined customer journey and the expectations of your customers, so that they have enjoyed a great, satisfied experience with you. What processes need to change, and that should revolve around the personalized account management. And then this digital marketing strategy. If you've been putting off a complete digital marketing strategy, this is your time. This is the hard line. You have to get online in every way you can, whether it's social media, whether it's online purchasing, whatever it is, you have to take this time to create your digital marketing strategy. You do not want to be, left behind like the buggy whip or whatever, because going back to the reset or the reflect, stuck in the way business has always been done. This is your D-Day, if you will. So in an effort to help you, and we'll send this out, we have this social media calendar, and with a sample of a timeline. Blogging is so important, and actually Google increased their blog word count to about a minimum of 1,000. It used to be 500 to 1,000, minimum of 1,000. The actual optimum number is like 1,760 or something like that for blog content, and all these different points, having a video in there, or some sort of link, and having some bullets in there. So blogging is very important to building your organic search, your trust, being a thought leader, which drives all of the traffic into your website. So if you think about blogging once a week, and you look at the different things as far as, what keywords are you going to have in there? What is the call to action, or what is your offer? Now, again, we're not selling a lot right now. We're starting just to re-engage. So are you going to send them to a white paper? Are you going to let them have some of these downloadable things like John talked about? And then how do you then take that blog content and spread that across your social media areas? So like, as you see here on day one, if you do write a blog on Facebook and Instagram, you link it to the blog. Twitter link to the blog. LinkedIn, you can share. You have to put a little bit different spin on it because that's more business oriented. But because some of these move so quickly, 4 hours later, it is recommended that you again go ahead and repost that. And then on the third day, take some video. Canva is a great tool to create video or infographics and to put out there your messaging. So day 3, day 7. So you want to just continue to try to build this traffic and engage this customer that is online. I think it was like 25%. Google said that online search is up right now. So great opportunity for you to implement this new customer journey. And because of that customer journey, how are you now going to communicate and reach out and talk to your customer base? So to kind of summarize this sales process, again, it's really a typical strategic plan, but with a little bit of a twist because the world is not as we've known it. It is new. And so how do you, determine your opportunity out there and then, analyze it, prioritize it, create your strategy, implement it, track it, and then go back and change it. That's why it's a circle, because things continually change. So hopefully these 3 areas have helped to give you some ideas on how you can go back to your business and start to build your rebounding growth strategy, combining this process with the messaging advice that John has given to you. And, again, if you guys have any questions or anything, we'll be sending out these spreadsheets, so you'll have some of that. But just let us know through the chat or the question and answer. And right now, I am going to turn it over to Maria, who is going to handle or talk with you guys about the HR side of things.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. All righty. So, okay. All right, Jack. It's not clicking over, Jack. Okay. It's not moving forward, Jack. There we go. Okay. So today, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to address human resources. What are the best practices in bringing your workforce back to your place of employment? I think I have a delay over here. Oh, there we go. Nope. Jack, can you take me back one? There we go. All right. So first off, I want to start with once you have determined the structure of what your post-COVID operations actually look like, now you need to pay attention to devising a plan that's based on best practices. So we know that as of May 4th, the governor opened up, she posted an executive order opening up the state of Kansas. And not many people are aware of what those phases look like. So I briefly want to describe those to you before we move forward. In phase 1, beginning on May 4th, we were to have no more than 10 people gather in one place. A social distancing was put into order, continuing the telework process, and a minimum of travel. So no travel should be done, and to avoid non-essential travel. Phase 2 begins on May 18th. So in 1 week, we now can increase those gatherings to no more than 30 people. Social distancing stays in place. Telework for those who can continue to do that from home. And then again, avoid non-essential travel. Now, beginning June 1st, the state moves into phase 3, and that is gatherings of 90 people. Now individuals can adhere to just personal hygiene guidance and not so much the social distancing. So now we're going to start to become closer. Also, here is where we're looking at on-site staffing. So bringing back individuals to your place of business with a more strategic type of process. Telework will start to diminish. And then, of course, now normal travel can be resumed. And then there'll be the phase out process where I won't say we'll go back to normal. We'll go back to what a new normal is going to look like. The Centers for Disease Control and OSHA have posted at their websites some guidance on preparing your workplace for COVID-19. So do check out these 2 websites to ensure that you're getting the best information. Everything that we're discussing here today is from a general viewpoint, so we're not going to take a deep dive into any specific type of industry. So I'm going to try and just do it from a 50,000-foot level so that everybody has a general idea. But note that there are resources out there that are industry specific, especially at the CDC. Alrighty. My screen hasn't advanced yet. There we go. Okay, so keeping the workplace safe. So how do you assess your business from a physical perspective? Take a deep, hard look at how business was run prior to COVID and now how you must navigate moving forward. So keep in mind that when we talk about keeping your business safe, you want to take reasonable care as an employer to ensure that you are removing any of the concerns or health scares that most people are fearing right now. So as you look at your workplace, you'll notice that even as you start to venture out, you're going to start seeing some different things at entry points for businesses. You want to implement what is feasible and practical for your business. Most important, always comply with state and local ordinances so that you are staying within public health guidelines. That is clearly the key. So being healthy and clean, looking at opportunities for sanitation stations. When you prepare your workforce, think about what you need to do prior to anybody stepping foot inside your business. Now, for those of you who have businesses where you're not necessarily just an office where third parties are doing deliveries, but you actually have customers who are coming in for products, you want to make sure that you look at them in the same manner. So employees, customers, as well as third parties, deliveries, the UPS man, disinfect all surfaces that are touched before employees make a return. Make this a regular part of your maintenance. And do note that at the CDC and OSHA, you will see specific guidelines for the types of disinfecting products that need to be utilized in order to ensure that you're actually affecting COVID-19. Follow any of those guidelines when it comes to putting up sanitizing stations, making sure that there's sanitizer that's more readily available. Inventory and restocking, if you'll be using PPE, ensure that you're going to have proper disposal of PPE equipment, and that it's done according to the World Health Organization, the CDC and OSHA guidelines. This is very important. This is a common thing for people in the healthcare industry, not so much for the rest of us who haven't had to deal with this prior. And do note that when you think about PPE, that not all PPE is created equal. If you are in an industry where you're going to require PPE that must be regulated by OSHA, do ensure that you go to their website and find out what those guidelines are and what your responsibility is as an employer. Discontinue the use of high-touch surfaces like vending machines. These are big contacts of germs. Coffee machines, you know, that regular meeting place of where we have conversations. We have to rethink all of that now. In addition to social distancing, you may also need to place physical barriers between employees or the public. If you notice when you go to retailers right now, Sneeze guards have been put into place. So if you've walked into a Lowe's or you've walked into certain establishments, you are now talking to somebody through plexiglass. Signs on the doors to entries of buildings are appearing everywhere as we begin to reopen. Stickers on floors to designate 6 feet apart for social distancing. I was very impressed with the speed that some of the large retailers had in ensuring that they took reasonable care to put this information out there for all of us as their customers. Another thing that I've noticed is in parking lots as well as within the stores. If you've been in the grocery store, you might have experienced already you can only go down the grocery store lane one way, helping to prevent and space out individuals. You might have had to stand in line to get into Walmart or into Lowe's, where they're actually counting the number of people that are going in. Announcements across PA systems, reminding you to cough into your sleeve, reminding you to maintain a social distance. It's also, I'm hearing them in the parking lot. So lots of differences are working their way into our new world. And so if you have the ability to do any of this within your workplace, these are things that you might want to consider. And remember that hand washing, all the basic hygiene is going to be more important now than ever. I think over the last 6 weeks, we have watched fear step into that place of ensuring that everything's disinfected. The challenge moving forward is to see how consistent businesses will be in ensuring that they keep this up consistently. This is where it's going to fall under that portion of reasonable care. What are you doing every day, every week to ensure the safety of your clients and employees? Okay, so some changes that you want to think about and consider. As you look at bringing individuals back, you might want to consider staggering callbacks. Now, these could be ones that you designate or ones that you work with your employees to do on a voluntary basis. When we talk about use of PPE, and I'm not talking in the healthcare industry right now, just generally, if you require employees to wear PPE, you must be responsible for providing that to your employees. You cannot make that an undue burden upon them to provide on their own. And not all PPE is created equal. So do ensure that based on the industry that you are in, that you defer to OSHA guidelines for the PPE that is regulated for your industry. When we look at screening employees, as many of you probably know, the EEOC has lightened up their guidelines insofar as allowing people to take temperatures as they come into work. This is a really big deal. Employee privacy is vitally important. If you choose to screen your employees when they come back, you want to take into consideration these things. You will need to evaluate who will be doing that screening. If you're going to take temperatures, whoever you have do that must be trained. They must know how to conduct that screening with the employee. You must ensure that the testing is done privately. Again, keep in mind that if it was you, how would you want to be treated? We do not want to violate any privacy rights of employees. So take them into an office. Do keep in mind that if you're going to do screening prior to someone starting their work schedule, that the importance of staggering those schedules and callbacks is to ensure that you don't have lines of people, lines of employees, waiting to get to their job. Note that this is compensable time. So you may need to pay your employees for the time that they're standing there. So think about those things, work through what your schedules look like, ensure that testing is done privately, and most definitely do not have employees scanned or screened by their supervisor. And again, under FLSA, this is most likely compensated time, and employees will need to stagger their shifts. So that is probably one of the biggest questions that we get. What does that look like? This is a very individual decision for each business. So all of these parameters need to be taken into consideration. When we bring employees back, we're still going to have to social distance. We still, until that phase out process happens, we are still going to need to keep that 6 feet between all of us. So what does that look like for your business? What is it, how close were your employees prior? And what is that going to look like moving forward? Limit cash handling. If you have a business that deals with cash a great deal, start utilizing credit cards or something where there is not a lot of exchange going from hand to hand. I apologize, there's a slight delay when my slide comes through here. John, can you take that back one for, thank you, or Jack. Communicating with your team. If I can stress anything, positive, clear communication with employees is vital. Right now, employees are dealing with a lot of anxiety. There are a lot of issues with the fear of coming back. What does that look like? Am I going to get COVID? What do they really have control over? That's what this is about. And most employees don't have any control of the situation, but they do want to be reassured. And, you know, we work with small business every single day. And if there's anything that I can say about that, it's people truly do care about the teams that they've built. And so when you think about that communication, don't hesitate to send out regular communication. There's no sin in over communicating, but determine what is the best way to communicate with your team and make sure that everybody is hearing the same message. Develop and maintain written policies and procedures. You're going to hear me say this a couple of times over the next 20 minutes. I can't stress this enough. As we went into COVID, we had policies and procedures. Coming out of COVID, we're going to have amendments to those policies and procedures. You know, what does it look like regarding screenings? If you're going to screen your people, have a policy about it. Make sure that there's a clear understanding of what it involves. Cleaning and disinfecting, work schedules, infected and exposed employee procedures. What happens if people come back and someone tests positive? That FCRA poster, that employee rights poster that you see right there, that is the minimum of what you should be posting for employee rights right now. If you haven't received that poster, the link and the very last bullet point is the link to that poster itself. Print it out, put it right where you put all of your other work posters so that employees see it. If you have people teleworking, email that poster to every one of your employees so that they are aware of what their employee rights are. This is what was enacted under the FCRA Act, and we want to ensure that everybody understands how that emergency leave works should they contract COVID or come in contact with somebody who has COVID. There are six different sectors to those employee rights. So be sure to read through that. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us for further clarification. Establish clear guidelines and expectations for your employees as they come back to work. People just want to know what you want them to do. And the better we spell that out, the more comfortable and less fear people are going to have in returning. And again, that post the necessary information. Take the time to go through all of the things that you are doing and put it in writing. It is the best plan when it comes to ensuring that everybody is seeing the same thing and that you can show the reasonable care that you are taking in your business to ensure the safety of your people. So from a legal aspect, we want to make sure that you understand that litigation comes from both employees and customers. I'm sure you've all heard the most recent, Walmart case. I'm sure attorneys are just waiting for what that litigation is going to look like moving forward. And again, there's the develop written policies and procedures. They're living documents. Make sure that you continuously update. I can't begin to predict what it's going to look like 3 months from now, but I know looking back in hindsight, where we sat 3 months ago, the last thing I would have expected to do before beginning 6 weeks of teleworking was establishing an infectious disease policy. That was just not on my radar, but we did it. And you want to make sure that you are looking at the things that are pertinent to your business. You know, policies are your protection. They're the communication of what employees expect, and they're your way of being able to treat each employee equally. If you institute new policies and procedures, you need to train on those new policies and procedures. People want to know how to comply with the rules that you're setting into place. They want to understand what it is that you expect from them. Be sure to put that into place. Keeping up to date with relevant guidance from agencies and businesses for best practices in your industry. You know, I think John said it before, you know, when we are asked to train folks on programs that are coming down, we need that guidance, and it's no different from you. The guidance keeps changing. It keeps updating as more information comes out about COVID, as they get more reliable information. So it's important to make sure your business is up to speed on what those are. My recommendation is appoint an individual or a team of people who are going to track those changes and work together to ensure that everybody in the business understands the guidance and the rules for your place of business. All right, so OSHA. OSHA applies to any employer with more than 10 employees. Now, this requires employees to maintain a safe and healthy work environment. It includes specific requirements for PPE, respiratory protection, as well as record-keeping responsibilities. For those of you in construction, you know, it's a lot of record-keeping. Most questions come back to understanding OSHA's general duty clause. Basically, what that says is the employer failed to keep the workplace free of hazard, so employees were exposed. A hazard was recognized. The hazard was causing or was likely to cause death or serious physical harm. There was a feasible and useful method to correct the hazard. You want to ensure that if OSHA applies to your business, that you are following your OSHA guidelines. And believe me, there are wonderful guidelines for COVID-19 on the OSHA website as well as CDC. Now, when we talk about OSHA and COVID-19, the best guidance that has been sent out is, again, develop an infectious disease response plan. What does that mean? It means if you have somebody who has contracted COVID or who has brought that into your workplace, how are you going to protect your employees? How are you going to maintain business continuity? How does life continue to go on when we've got all of these other things that are affecting us? Make sure that you have obtained an emergency leave form. SHRM has these out there. Contact us at the SBDC. We can help you with that, so that you can keep track of who you're issuing leave to. When you look at workers, you want to be sure to classify them by separate levels. Understand what a very high exposure means. This is usually the healthcare. These are all of our folks that are on the front line. When we deal with a high level of exposure, we have a known or expected, suspected COVID-19 patient. So that's healthcare delivery, mortuary workers, medical transport. Medium level has required frequent or close contact. So we expose ourselves to a medium level every time we walk into a store where we're actually asked to social distance. If we have no contact or no suspected infection with COVID-19, what they've asked us to do by staying home has put us in the lowest risk category. It doesn't mean that that exposure isn't going to happen in some manner, shape, or form. So be aware of when you look at your business, and this goes back to that hazard assessment, what type of exposure will your employees have, and how many people does that look like in each category? So other considerations. This has already begun, and what happens when you have individuals who are refusing to return to the workplace. Now you're going to hear a few different explanations. First and foremost, we hear that we're afraid to come back. Unfortunately, refusing on behalf of fear doesn't fall under any of the 6 categories. So we as employers have to do everything in our capacity to make sure that we can help to diffuse that fear. Goes back to everything that we just stated about reasonable care. What are the things that we need to do? You'll also hear people are going to make more money on unemployment than they will coming back to work. Again, not a viable reason not to return to work. Training. Make sure that you put into place some sort of training for when people come back to work. And don't be afraid to put this into your correspondence. Let them know of the things that you've got in mind. Work with most people do not have in small business a dedicated HR department. If you have questions on how to bring those pieces together, please let us know. We'll be there to help you. Workplace exposure. If you are having to report in OSHA logs, make sure that they are up to date. As we move forward and we monitor orders at the local level, you want to establish plans that allow for flexibility. Understand that everything needs to be treated as a living document. Your policies and procedures are bound to change. And the more that you work through this, you're going to see what is really working for you and what doesn't. Have a pandemic response plan. The plans need to include considerations for both your facilities and your employees and your third party customers so that they understand what they need to do when they come to your business. Planning, I can't begin to express the importance of having a solid plan in place before anybody steps foot back on your property. This will help you, and this will safeguard others, and it will really help you to, again, goes back to that business continuity. How do you restart? If you don't have a plan, you have nowhere to shoot toward. And when you do put things into place, it really does provide for some sense of a lack of fear, but I'm losing the word here. There's a feeling of not only does my employer truly understand where I'm coming from, but I think just from the common decency side of person to person, and the fact that we all have established relationships with the people that we work with, we do care about each other, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make people understand and know that, again, with what you can do within your realm is being done, and you're taking every possible procedure to ensure their safety. All right, I will hand this back to our next person.
Stephanie, you're muted.
I saw that my little yellow box didn't light up. Yeah, so thanks, Maria. That was a lot of great information. And, as we think back to that Forbes survey of cash flow, employees, diminishing pipeline, I mean, hopefully from the last session and this session, you have gathered enough information to help you feel a little more stable, a little more confident about how to approach and move forward with this new normal that we have out there. We are nearing the end, but we definitely wanted to hit a little bit on, as a leader, you have a lot of weight on your shoulders. You have the livelihood of all your people that work for you. You have the relationships with all your customers, vendors. I mean, all that interwoven, all those interwoven relationships just are on your shoulders. And what we want to try to do is give you a quick little top 10 things that might be able to help you as a leader wrap your head around the best way to work through some of this and prepare yourself for moving forward. Within this document is a link to this Korn Ferry survey. Well, it's a big report that they did on leadership, and it's a fantastic report, and so you'll be able to see it by getting through the link. So Napoleon said the leader's role is to define reality and then give hope. And that's really, I thought, was very, again, kind of appropriate for now, because we are in a different reality, but there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and giving hope is part of the leader's role. So I'm not going to read through all these because you're going to have them, but number one is about communication. Be purposeful, help to build alignment for change, and remind, one of the things is remind everybody why your company exists. It's important for them to understand what their purpose and place in the world is. And so your authentic, frequent, and Maria said, all that good communication will help them to understand their purpose and their why. And number two, as far as, health is now intersecting more with their responsibilities at work than ever before. You basically just came to work, and if you were sick, you stayed home. Now there's this whole other level of health interaction in your daily roles. So as a leader, make sure that you're valuing your people and not just the enterprise. Show you care and that they are your valued asset, and that you want them to feel that value from you. Technology, as I said earlier, we've been thrust into this world of digitization faster than before, and it's a great productivity tool, but it's also right now being used as a connector. So there's a lot of anxiety. I sat on one last week where, two of the people just dropped off because they were so frustrated they could not figure out how to get their camera to face the right way, and they're like, this just isn't worth it to me. So it can be a level of anxiety, but again, as a leader, this is your opportunity to convert that anxiety into, we are going to get through this. This is not your technology working is not life or death. You as a person are. So let's not make that the be all end all, but it definitely can help with the productivity and the connectivity. Everybody responds to challenges a little bit differently. So make sure that your employees have a forum that they can be communicating with each other, with you, that you're hearing them, and that you are empathetic to their, you think about so many people. My kids are older, but man, if I had to be homeschooling and all this stuff, they showed somebody again on Sunday morning yesterday where it was my husband and wife and 3 kids, and they were both trying to do their job, and it was mayhem. So all I have is a new little puppy that can occasionally wreak havoc, but it is being empathetic that things are different for everybody. Time management was number 5. This has a whole new meaning, and so where you used to think about, you used to clock in at 8, leave at 5. Are people getting their work done? Purpose, this new purpose can be, a tool for innovation. And so it might not need to be as rigid as it was before, but if people feel their why and feel their purpose, they're going to give you what you need to help make sure your company moves forward. Number 6 is focus. Give people permission to, understand the vision of the business, and that what's the other side going to look like. You want to help them to understand this elevation from now to whatever this next is. And by doing so, then again, they'll feel more engaged and have more of a purpose. 7, again, acknowledging that people are different and everybody handles things differently. So just acknowledging, that is a fact, and being able to have that open and honest communication with your employees. Metrics. We haven't really talked a lot about performance and metrics. What if you were a salesperson, you had a sales budget for this year? What if what are all the different KPIs that you had set for your business? So you might have to sit back and rethink what success is. It may be a new opportunity to, work more deeply and serve your customers, and working with your colleagues, and really have a different set of metrics. Number 9 is acknowledge this and the gap for informal interaction. studies historically, because we weren't in this world, said, oh yeah, if you can go home and work for a day, working remotely can be super productive. And I know personally, I always tried to get at least one day at home when I could just really focus, no interactions. But the flip side is that is now there is no, you're not having any informal interactions, no informal connection or brainstorming. And so unless it's thought out, you're losing that. So maybe there's different ways that you can work with people, or you work with your team, or communicate with your customers, so that they so that this connectivity and this informal connectiveness can take place. And finally, and again, more importantly, is to just make sure people have a voice, and that they have, I mean, you can follow all the steps and do all the cash flow and do all the things that we have talked through, but if your employees don't feel heard, don't feel engaged, don't feel safe, that's all of it will be for naught. So making sure that you take about all these steps to improve the engagement and the productivity during crisis would be is one of the the underlying top 10. So those, just quickly hitting on those. The entire article will be given to you guys, and I think, Jessica, are you wrapping up?
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. Those were great. Maria, thank you so much for the human resources side. And we do have some links here for you if you would like to learn a little bit more. As Stephanie mentioned, the link to that Korn Ferry, the COVID-19 Leadership Guide, if you wanted to read the full guide. I believe it's around 96 pages, if I'm not mistaken. But good information in there if you would like to read it, along with other links for you. We do have the state Kansas SBDC has an upcoming webinar on cybersecurity. If you're interested in that, I believe it is a series as well. They have 2 sessions remaining. And we're going to get to Q&A. So our first question is, what is the name of your company? So we are the Kansas Small Business Development Center. There are 8 regional centers. Jack, Stephanie, John, and myself are from Johnson County Community College Center, and Maria is out of Seward County Community College Center. Our next question, and Maria, I believe this one is going to be for you. When screening employees, should we be recording the temperatures? I see this as a violation, but I'm unsure.
So according to the EEOC, you're allowed to take the temperatures. Recording is a new question. If there's nothing to be concerned about, what most people are doing is placing bands or stamps on people to know that they're cleared. So not as though you're keeping physical records. It's merely a screen, a scan, and they move on. So I'm going to say no, you're not recording them. Now, should there be a temperature that gets into not being acceptable, now that might be that's a different case. And I'd love to talk to you more about that, because I don't want to venture there, because I think I would need a little bit of clarification when it comes to what you're going to do with those reportings. So, and what does that look like based on somebody who reports to OSHA and somebody who doesn't?
Thank you, Maria. And so sorry about that. The doorbell rang and the dog went crazy. Thank you. And one final statement from Kelly. Kelly says, thank you. Well, Kelly, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And everyone else too that's on the line, thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate it and hope that this information was beneficial for you. And with that, have a great day.